Hello and welcome back to the Being and Becoming podcast. My name is Logan Howard. I have the pleasure to be joined today by a friend named Carl Arvidson. Carl, thanks for coming on the show, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Anytime. In full disclosure, for the listener, I had Carl's wife, Mackenzie, on our show last year, and I would encourage anyone to go watch that if they're interested. But so she was, a friend from high school and whatnot, and then got married to Carl here and was speaking very highly of him and said that I should give him an interview. So, Carl, thanks so much for taking me up on that.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Happy to
Awesome.
do it.
Thank you. I figured we kind of dive in with your background, maybe like growing up. Where are you from? Tell us about yourself, Carl.
Yes. So my parents were missionaries for, I don't know, like 10 years maybe. But my dad is a college professor, and so he got a job teaching in Sudan. Uh, so he taught, and then they owned like a bookstore and like a girls and boys youth hostel. But so anyway, I was born in Sudan during that time. We left in, I don't know, when I was like six, maybe. So, very early. I don't remember a lot about Sudan. Um, but we moved to South Carolina for a year. And then my dad, we left Sudan because my dad got hepatitis from getting a haircut. He got like cut on the head or something and got
Whoa.
hepatitis. So then the mission organization they were with like kind of forced them to leave. Um, and so my dad, we moved back to South Carolina. He was teaching there at the college he used to teach at, and then he got a job teaching at an American university in Nigeria. So we moved back to Africa when I was in like first grade or second grade.
Was there a particular draw for your parents to Africa, or was that kind of where the mission group was assigning them?
So my mom was a missionary's kid as well. Well, yeah, her dad was a pastor, and she was actually born in Nigeria, and lived there for like most of her like up until high school. But when my parents joined the mission organization that they were with, my dad told them that he wanted to go to the place no one else wanted to go. He was like, give us the hardest place. And Sudan was the hardest place. It was very hard to get into. The only way they got in was because my dad got a job teaching there. Like they didn't allow like Christian missionaries or anything into the country. But so yeah, I don't know. My dad just wanted, I guess, the hardest thing for some reason, and he fell in love with Sudan, and then I think Nigeria was like, I don't know, he just wanted something different, like wanted to try something else.
Because wasn't Sudan had a civil war, right? Was it around that time you guys would have been living there?
So it was after, yeah, like it was getting like rocky, I think. Like I think there was like there's always been disagreements between the Christians and Muslims. That is largely why it split like a couple of years ago and is now actually two countries. But it was because of the Christians and Muslims fighting. Um, when we were there, like I think it was dangerous to a degree, but I mean, we were like somewhat safe um during our time. We like there was like a pharmaceutical plant that was like not far from us, and at the time like it was right after 9/11 had happened, and they thought Osama bin Laden, well, he had lived in Sudan for a little bit, um but they thought he was using this pharmaceutical plant to like make some of his weapons or like hiding some stuff there or something. So anyway, the US bombed it while we were living there. And it was like, not far from where we lived. And then my mom, I'm going on a lot of tangents, but my mom, when I was a kid, when we lived in Sudan, she was on her way to work one day and was getting a taxi, and this taxi picked her up. And instead of taking her to where she was going, they just kept driving into the desert. They didn't know that she knew Arabic, and they were talking about how Osama bin Laden had a hit out for American heads for like $1 million, and how they were gonna kill her. And she basically started talking to them as if, telling them about me and my brother. And like mothers are highly respected in the Muslim culture. So she started talking to them as if like, what if this was their mom? And basically talked her way out of this kidnapping situation. And they just like dropped her off where she had originally wanted to go and just let her go.
Holy cow.
And my mom tells it way better than I do, but that's like a brief version. But that was like
So,
about the craziest thing that happened while we were there.
but I mean, even in that story, I'm kind of, wow, taken aback. But it seems like your parents are like, I guess, unafraid, brave. Uh, like, did she had to have thought like when she was hearing them talk about their plans in Arabic, like she had to have been. Was she nervous at all, or was she confident that she could sway them?
That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, I would assume she was scared. I don't,
Yeah,
she tells the story. My mom is very like calm and like pretty like soft spoken, and she always tells it like it's not that big of a deal.
yeah.
It's so like laid back. But I mean, I imagine she had to be scared. I don't know.
Wow. That like I can't even imagine. Well, one being in that situation, but then having the confidence to be able to, you know, well, like even the plan, like the logic that she came up with to think, oh, they respect mothers in this culture, even though these guys clearly have bad intentions. They do have values, and like I am a mother, and like I can use my words to persuade them to see me as a human being and someone that has value rather than an easy ticket for them to make some money. Like that's super profound.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
I mean, yeah, I don't know how she did it, or I mean, I guess God was really with her that day, but
yeah, and so with the bombing too. Sorry to kind of jump jump back to that. The U.S. bombed the pharmaceutical company in Sudan near where you guys live. And
uh-huh.
could you guys see smoke? Was it obvious that they had done that?
Yeah, I think it was like pretty obvious. Like I think we like heard the jets and stuff, and like I lightly remember driving by it or something after it happened. But
Was there any tension between your family being American with the locals at all? Is that
mm, not not really. Like, you know, they were very nice, and like I don't know that my parents ever really felt unwelcome or we ever felt unwelcome. Like, growing up or like when I was a kid, like, and people always like Mackenzie's parents or mom thought that this was crazy, but like, when I went to school, when I was like, going to kindergarten or whatever, like I would take a rickshaw by myself to school. Like a rickshaw driver would just pick me up at our house and take me to school. Like, we felt very safe. Like it wasn't,
yeah?
never felt like uneasy.
Is a rickshaw a taxi? Is that
Yeah, it's like a taxi, but it's like a three-wheeled, like this little, I don't know how to, it's like this little three-wheeled, like motorcycle kind of vehicle.
whoa?
But
And so as a young kid, you would get in one of those alone, or I think you said you had a brother. Would he come with you?
yeah. Yeah, my brother, once he was like old enough to go to school too, we'd go together. But yeah, I mean, and like my parents always tell like a story of when I was like a child and I would walk down to this like stand and buy bread by myself, like it was down the street. But, I don't, I think my parents felt pretty comfortable there if they let us
Yeah.
do these things.
And
Uh,
it wasn't like you guys were living in uh I don't know what the word would be, maybe like a compound or facility, because I know been another missionary kid that I spoke with that's a friend of mine that said that their family lived in more of like kind of like a guarded
hmm.
complex or something. It doesn't seem like your situation that way as well? Or?
Not in Sudan. In Sudan, I mean, we had like a gate, I guess, or whatever, like, but we didn't have like it was just us. Like there was no like protection.
Yeah.
Um, Later on when we lived in Nigeria, we had like we lived in a gated compound with like security guards and stuff, but
Okay.
that was different.
So Nigeria. Oh, sorry, there was a year in between, right? Sudan and Nigeria,
Yeah.
where you're in the states. Was that odd adjusting back to U.S. culture, like
Um,
in that gap year?
yeah, certainly I think I don't remember it too much. Like I don't remember it being that hard, but like there were like things that my parents tell me from when we like first came back. Like in Sudan, we only had electricity every now and then, like it would go on and off all the time. And like I just like when we moved back to the States, I would never turn on lights because I just wouldn't expect them to work. Uh
Oh,
like at night, like I would just like act like nothing worked or whatever, or like I don't know. Like I remember the first time, going to like Walmart or something, it was like the craziest sort of experience. Like
yeah.
they didn't have that there. But I don't remember like it being that difficult or sort of like crazy. But
And then, because yeah, so you were like pretty young, right? Like
mhm.
9 or 10.
When we came back from Sudan, I think I was like 7.
Oh, 7. Okay.
Yeah, 6 or 7 or somewhere in there.
And
But
then you're
so
there for a year. Your dad is recovering from the hepatitis, right? From the haircut.
yeah.
And then, so he's in good health, and you guys decide to go to Nigeria, or was it the similar kind of thing, like just kind of place us wherever?
So yeah, my dad was teaching at a university in South Carolina and then got a job offer at a university in Nigeria. The um, vice president of Nigeria at the time wanted to open up an American university in Nigeria that was all American faculty and like staff. And so he hired all American professors. And so my dad got a job teaching there. And so then that is what took us to Nigeria. They at that point had left the mission organization, and so this was just like a job opportunity, really.
Oh, I see. So this isn't through a missions organization or anything.
Yeah.
And I also forgot to ask earlier, what subject did your dad teach in university?
He was a chemistry professor primarily, but he taught like a broad range of sciences, really. Like he taught biology and some other ones at different points, but like mainly chemistry.
Wow, that's not an easy one to teach.
Definitely
Or it wasn't an easy one to be a student in for sure.
not. It's funny when I took chemistry in high school, I told my dad it was my least favorite subject because I hated it. So I don't know, he loved it, but I couldn't do it.
Yeah, but he also didn't try to force his hand or anything to make you love the sciences. Just kind of like, yep, you do you, and
Mhm.
yeah, pursue what you like. That's cool.
Yeah.
And so Nigeria, is that a very different experience than what Sudan was like? You're a little bit older, so maybe you have a better recollection or whatnot of those events. But
Yeah. Yeah, Nigeria was well, and yes, I was older, so I remember it, but it was much different to me. Like my dad's job was like pretty nice and like um it the vice president like owned the university and like owned some other schools and basically his like ploy to get people to come was, he obviously paid them, but then you got like you lived in like they provided housing and everything. So the vice president, he owned like all these compounds, I guess you will, for his like in Muslim culture, you can have multiple wives, up to four. And when you're wealthy, you like a lot of them will have four wives, but then once one of them starts getting to like an age or like older, they'll divorce that one and marry a younger one. Um,
whoa,
and so he had like some multiple wives and whatever, and so he had these compounds built for like those like extended parts of the family. At least that's my understanding. He had these built or like bought them for like extended parts of the family. But then when he was like deciding to open this university, he used those for like like faculty housing. Um, and so, we lived on this compound that was like pretty nice. In Nigeria, we had a nice house. We had, we were in like a compound with like, eight other houses, all mostly Americans or a couple others that were like from like maybe Kenya or like some other places, but had lived or gone to school in the States. So they were like, I don't know. They like had been abroad. They weren't just like local, I guess, if you will. But um, so it was, it was a lot different. I was mostly surrounded by other Americans or, you know, people from different parts of the world. Um, and we had like, guards at our gate and I went to like a school with uh other kids whose parents were teaching at the university or whose parents were like in government in Nigeria who could like afford to go to this school. Um so yeah, I don't know, it was very different. It was like this bubble in Nigeria, like
mm,
sort of. Um but yeah, I mean it was a good experience. Met a lot of different like people from like a lot of different places and it was fun.
did you? You had said that it was a bubble that you were living in. Did you ever have interest going outside of it, or was it unsafe to do so?
Um, yeah, I mean, certainly I guess there was like we had some friends who I don't actually know how we met, but like we had some friends whose they were from India and like their parents were doctors in Nigeria. And so we like made some friends that way, but for the most part, well, as a kid, I didn't have much room to like explore whatever. And my dad worked all the time and mom worked. So
Oh, did she also teach your mom?
yeah, so when she's a teacher too, but like elementary school, but when we moved to Nigeria, there was like a elementary school. They call it primary school there, but there was a school that we went to our first year, and then they asked my mom to help start a school for like other kids who were like in whose parents taught there or whatever. So my mom helped start a school for those kids, and then ran that for like the last couple of years we were there. But yeah, she taught like first grade for a lot of years, and then did that for a while. But
Wow. So yeah, they're both pretty busy. Is it? Are there a lot of activities for you to do, like sports wise and things like that, or?
Um, yeah, I mean, we played a lot of soccer. That was, what everyone played, but that's what we played. There was like a club like I don't know. Yeah, I guess it was a club. It had like workout stuff and it had like a swimming pool and everything. So that's where like in when we lived in Nigeria, we got out of school at 1:30 in the afternoon, and then on Fridays, because Fridays are the Muslim holy day, we got out at 12. And so both my parents would still be working, so me and my brother would just go get dropped off at the club and we'd just swim all afternoon until my parents were done working, and then we'd go home. But that's that was kind of what we did. I mean,
Yeah,
we also, at home we had a PlayStation 2 or whatever, and we played video games and that sort of thing.
nice. Yeah, it seems like a pretty unique upbringing, but you also were able to do like a lot. Like you had a great community, and you're able to do a lot of different activities. It seems
Yeah.
like so.
Yeah. Well, and like the nice thing is we lived in this like compound with other like 8 other families or whatever. So we had like these built-in friends that were like right there. Like we didn't have to go anywhere to like hang out with them. Like we all just went to each other's houses or whatever.
Because they're all kind of in the same like areas. It almost um like a block. Like you guys are all in the same street almost.
Yeah, even like yeah, it's kind of like that. Yeah, it's basically just a block. Like on a random given street, there's like this huge like walled off area that has like 10 houses in it. And then, inside there's just these 10 houses with all these families living inside. So, I don't I'm trying to think of like an example.
Well, I was also wondering, maybe is it similar to college, like a either college where you're like just in close proximity to like the campus and your uh like friends or whatnot. Because
Yeah.
I like that was some of the most fond memories in my life, just because you can, there's always something to do. You could like,
Yep.
oh, so and so's doing this, or you could message this
Yeah.
person, and they're, everything's so close.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a good example. I mean, like, I think like a neighborhood here, the houses are like slightly more like spread out or whatever. But if the like houses were all really close and it was just like all enclosed, really, that's basically what it was. But yeah, I mean, college is a good example. Like you know, we would just after school or whatever on the weekends, we would just go over to each other's houses and like we knew we would just hang out because there was nothing else to do.
Yeah.
You know, like we didn't, we weren't doing anything really, like whatever, like, I
And
don't
it's
know.
funny you say that, because even like in Ohio, obviously very different than Nigeria. But that was kind of my high school friends were the same way. It was just like we didn't like really do much of anything, but I mean we might play sports or whatever. But we all just like hanging out, talking.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I but those are again some of my most fond memories is just us kind of not doing anything, but just like
Uh-huh.
being together and joking or yeah, whatever else. So um, yeah, there's something to be said, I think, about community, and um, it's a little off topic, I guess, but I think just kind of being an older young adult now, it's kind of odd to like community doesn't work the same way it did when you were younger. I don't think, especially being married and like we both own houses, and there's just a never-ending list of things to do, projects to be done. It's like a very different setup than kind of like what you were describing, or like what a kind of like the college environment, or just kind of like hanging out. Uh, you know, not too many cares, in the world, not much going on. So
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing like I would agree with what you said too about college. Like there was no time like college where you have so little responsibility and like everyone else around you does too. And so you can just hang out 24/7 and like, not like you don't have anything except to go to class, but like, that's a couple hours a day.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
no, it was. I I wish I there's some things about college I wish I would have changed. I think I took on too many responsibilities, and like none of them paid very well, if at all. And so, um, yeah, I would do like I led a campus ministry 1 year that I don't think I did a super great job at. And then I led this group that did like service projects for a couple years. That and a lot of that stuff like just chewed into so much of my time. They were kind of like jobs, although you get like paid not great for them and stuff, which is
Yeah.
fine. But it's just like, yeah, it's just. And then I also am a musician though, so I would try to play as many like shows or gigs or whatnot as I could, and then also made a band where I met my wife, and we would play worship music at camps and kind of around our like tri-state area or whatnot. So I always felt like I had stuff going on, but was also like I wish I could offload some of this stuff so I could just be a normal human, and whatnot.
Uh, yeah.
But is so in college too, was that when you started your first business and
Um, yeah, so I started working in coffee uh my sophomore year of college, I think. And I started working, there was a like pop-up sort of cold brew company in Lynchburg, Virginia called Golf Park. And I got a job doing like their farmers markets or whatever. And so that was kind of my first sort of intro into like the coffee space at all. Um, and then from there I got a job at like this coffee shop that was getting ready to open. Um, got a job there as a barista. And I think that was like towards the end of my sophomore year, maybe the summer in between my sophomore and junior year. Anyway, so I worked there for a while, and then kind of towards the end of that, after I'd been like doing that and helping golf park for a while, like I don't know, after there was like a point too after my after my sophomore year. I think after my sophomore year, maybe it was in the middle of my sophomore year. Anyway, I dropped out of college, and I was like, I don't think I want to do this right now. So I just was, working. Um, and then like fast forward, I don't know, a year or two from there, Golf Park was like thinking about opening a cafe, and so that was the first thing that I kind of helped start. Like I didn't help start the business, but I helped them open the cafe. And like helped like I both of the guys who owned Golf Park, one lived in Nashville and one lived in Lynchburg, but had a full-time job. So this was kind of like a side thing, like, so I was kind of the one that like helped them like get everything set up and then ran it like for, I don't know, 8 months or something before I moved and left Lynchburg and came to Cincinnati. Um, but yeah, I mean it was a good experience. Like I'd never really done anything like that up till that point, and like learning kind of some of the stuff that I guess goes into like starting a business. Like I didn't have much to do with like financial stuff or anything like that, but like helping like buy equipment and like train everyone and like think about those things was really interesting. And I really enjoyed that.
and that's I guess that'd be more like the operations side of the business. You're
Yeah, yeah, like the operations, like I was the one like day to day stuff. Like I managed like all the employees and like scheduling and like that sort of stuff. Um,
yeah.
yeah, that was cool. I loved that job. I loved Lynchburg, and I loved doing that and the people I worked with there. So
Yeah, so I mean, having a good boss, I think, is half of any job. Just people you
yeah.
can like get along with and that inspire you
Uh,
it's huge.
yeah, that's for sure.
And then yeah, so with the I kind of I I skipped a gap here in the story. So we talked about Lynchburg and going to college, starting the or working in the coffee business.
Mhm.
But what happened in between Nigeria? How did you get to Lynchburg? How did you know you wanted to go to college in the States? Like, what was
Yeah,
that process like?
yeah. So when let's see, so my dad taught in Nigeria for a couple years, and then when I was getting ready to go into seventh grade, he, started looking for other jobs. I think he was tired of being in Nigeria, and like I think he just was having some like disagreements with like some of his like coworkers or whatever. Anyway, so he started looking for a new job and got a job teaching at a university in Mansfield, Ohio. So we moved to Mansfield, Ohio from Nigeria, which that was the big like difference. Like not so much like I don't know, like difference like of moving from like Africa to Mansfield, but just like I don't know, it was like I was going into seventh grade and like middle school, and it felt somehow more like a bigger deal or whatever, like to
Yeah.
change schools at that time and like try to make all new friends. And like Mansfield is like a very small town, and like this, like I went to a small Christian school, and everyone had gone to like school together since they were like kindergartners. And I'm this like,
That's how Cincinnati Christian was too, where Mackenzie and I went to high school. Is like everybody, her she came late. I want to say she came like her freshman or sophomore year, and then I came my freshman year. And you can tell there's a lot
uh,
of established relationships, friendships. These people have kind of grown up together, and but that was intimidating or like daunting at the time.
yeah, I think it was just like, I don't know, being the new kid is always, I think, like, I don't know. It's like tough for whatever reason. But, it was good. Like I think growing up and like moving so many times, like I used to making new friends. So it wasn't like, I didn't think, I could do it or whatever. It was just like it was different. Like it wasn't like moving from Sudan to South Carolina, like I was a kid, like a little kid. So it's like you don't really think about like you don't really know that much about what's going on. But then when you move, when you're like getting ready to go into middle school or like going to seventh grade, it felt like I like more was more aware of it or understood it more or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so we moved there and we lived there until I graduated high school. Um, and I don't know. My dad was teaching still at that time, and as a college professor, encouraged me to go to college. So I went to college. I went to Liberty University. Because I didn't really know where else to go, and I had some friends who went to Liberty, and I went and visited, and it was cool. Like they had a cool campus, and like it seemed fun. I wanted to go somewhere like somewhat far away, like not crazy far, but like far enough that, I felt like I was on my own or whatever. So,
Yeah, I had a similar experience when I was thinking about going to college too. I wanted to be far enough but close enough. It just happened to be, oh, I'm just gonna go 2 hours away. I was like, that's good enough, you know.
yeah. Wait, where did you go to college?
I went to Anderson University, so it's pretty much central Indiana. It's like northeast of Indianapolis.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's. I mean, I think we had 2,000 in undergrad, so it was very small.
Oh, yeah, really small.
Yeah. How? Because Liberty's what, like 15 to 20?
Yeah, like 50, yeah, I think when I went, I think yeah, it was like 12 or 13,000 on campus maybe.
Okay.
It was growing. It's probably even bigger now, like on campus wise, but it was yeah, it was it was definitely a lot of people.
Yeah. And
So
so, you'd said you had left college then to pursue the coffee shop and some of that dream,
yeah,
I guess you could call it. Did you
Yeah.
end up going back to Liberty or
Yeah. When Mackenzie and I started dating, she was like, you should just finish your degree. You only have like, I don't know, like a year and a half left if I just like went really hard and knocked it all out. So she kind of convinced me that I should just finish it. So I went back and finished it. Uh, Liberty has like a really good online program, so I just did it online because one, it was cheaper, and two, I did it while I was like helping open golf park, and so it was, just easier to do online than try to like go to classes and stuff. And doing it online, you could do it faster. Like you
yeah?
could take classes almost year round versus like only in the semesters.
And are you glad that you went back and did it, or
Yeah, I mean, it was good. Like I'm glad I finished it. I don't regret it, but I don't use my degree
oh yeah,
or
what was your degree in?
my degree was in international business.
Okay.
So I mean it was good. Like I will also say that like taking the time off and then going back later, I was way more interested in college and way more interested in learning and like I cared a lot more. Like before I dropped out, I think I was getting like, B's, maybe a C or two here and there. When I went back, I just got straight A's because I was like, this is good. Like I enjoyed it. It was really
Yeah.
interesting at that point to me.
I've
And
actually had a similar experience with school when I went to college. I thought it was more of like a social experience more so than like an educational one. And now that I've graduated and I'm in the workforce and everything, I do have an interest. I try to read books and listen to podcasts, do podcasts, try to learn about what's going on in the world, and just try to stay up to date. Like I want to be a continuous learner and try to get better at certain things. And I'm
mm,
a I'm a hobbyist too, as probably could tell from doing this and just trying to learn different skills, whether it be house projects or musical instruments or any of that kind of stuff. I just very interested in all that. So,
uh-huh.
but yeah, it's interesting how when you are young and like attending college in person, they really gear it towards more of an experience of all these different people, kind of like we are talking about earlier too. And there's just something to do all the time, and
Hmm.
probably multiple things to do at the same time. And you have to choose, oh, which one am I going to? What am I going to do, or whatnot?
Uh-huh.
Um, yeah, so I guess you got the degree. You said you don't use it though, and we had talked a little bit before. You said you're in graphic design right now. I believe, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I design e-commerce websites. So I work for like a design agency and yeah, we work with like businesses all over the US and we help them design and then build their e-commerce stores.
Very cool.
So
Do you have any aspirations? I know, working with that startup golf park, right? Like the coffee shop. Like, do you have any aspirations of opening your own business someday or anything like that?
um yeah, I definitely do. I just don't know what. To go back a little bit, after I moved to Cincinnati, I helped open another coffee shop and like roasting company here in Cincinnati. Um, and had a lot more involvement in like the overall business and like getting it off the ground. So that was like really fun and like a really rewarding experience. But yeah, I don't know. I would love to have my own thing or like own my own thing, but I don't know what. Like I always think like later on in life, I'll open like a coffee shop or something, but coffee shops are just like very hard businesses to like make a lot of money on. So it's not like
Well, that's
unless you want to open like a bunch of coffee shops or something.
yeah,
uh, Like I don't think I would want that, but it would be like fun to just have like a side thing that's just like for fun.
yeah, almost like a hobby or something, but you're making money on it. Yeah,
Yes, yes, like a hobby.
yeah,
So,
that's cool. That's
but
yeah. I mean, hey, if you do it one day, we'd love to, put it out on the podcast, link it in the description, all that kind of stuff. Get people trying out the coffee. So
yeah. Yeah, maybe in like, I don't know. We'll see. Some number of years away. That's not in the forefront of my mind right now. But I always think that I will sometime.
what's in the forefront of your mind right now?
I don't know.
A secret?
I'm just working.
Yeah,
No, yeah, I don't know. I'm just, work's busy, but like it's really good. Um, and I'm just enjoying that. Like, I've been doing this, I guess this September, no, this August will be like my third year doing it. So I still, am somewhat new, but I've gotten somewhat like established at like my current job, and like I'm just enjoying it and like learning. Like I feel like this like world is like changes every day probably, but like there's always something new to learn or like some new thing to learn. So it's just really fun.
you mean
Uh,
specifically when you say the world? Do you mean the world at large, or specifically like for your company?
yeah, from like I'm like
Oh, okay.
in like design and e-commerce. Like I just feel like there's a lot that I still don't know and that I'm like learning new things like all the time. Um, which I think, and like, I in like other jobs, I will get to a point where I like sort of get bored of it, or like it's just not new enough. But like at my job, I work with, so many different companies and businesses that it always feels like new and fresh. And so that's like kept my attention or like interest.
Yeah,
So
that's important to. I'm actually. It's funny you say that, 'cause I'm in a similar space or spot now with my work where I think I'm in a good spot. I'm really interested in what I'm doing, and every day I'm adding a little bit more knowledge. They're pushing me a little bit harder, and it's like a good give and take. And I think that it's like you said, it's always busy. There's always something to learn or pick up on or do better, you know, or changes, or like so many changes that happen, and just trying to stay
mhm.
up to date with what's going on, and
Yeah.
yeah, just try to help out where you can, so
Uh-huh. Are you still at the same? Are you still doing accounting?
I'm a financial analyst, but in
Oh,
theory, yeah, basically like an accountant, and I'm working on a lot of like the sales people, like calculating their pay, and tackling other problems too, or other like business challenges and
sure.
whatnot. But so I help with the budget, and analysis with the budget, analysis with some of our business operations, and how we're doing. And so yeah, it's really good. I think I get to kind of see a couple, different areas, and like how the company's
Mm,
doing, like financially, and like the direction we're moving. So it's funny, like you were saying with the coffee shop example of how you ran the operations, but didn't touch a lot with the finance. I do like the opposite, where I'm almost not in the operations at all, but doing a lot in like the finance
uh-huh.
realm. And obviously there is some overlap, with the sales plans, and whatever else kind of analysis I can do to help. But it's kind of like I'm doing a lot of the what do you call it, like back office or back behind the point of sale kind of stuff. So
Yeah, like behind the scenes.
yeah, yep.
Yeah,
So
cool.
yeah,
Yeah, I feel like getting to have your hand in so many different spots is nice though. Like, you know, like kind of doing multiple things or whatever.
yeah, it
Even
is.
if it's the same job, but you're like, whatever, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's not just. I've had some other jobs where it was pretty mundane, and I was, I guess, siloed into doing one specific thing.
Mm.
And even when they gave you opportunities to do other things, it was kind of within the same vein, or it's mundane or whatnot. But this job I'm at now is very dynamic, and there's not really any red tape or, oh, we have to go through all of these channels to get one small thing done. They're like, no, if you can see a way to improve something, like do that. And so it's really cool, whereas you know some other jobs, it's like you make the smallest improvement and they're like, okay, you have to write that down in the improvement log, and it's just like the whole bureaucracy of like
Uh,
it's like it seems counterintuitive. It's not very in touch with making decisions in real time. It's like if you do make a slight improvement, maybe it's an improvement, maybe it's just sounds good on paper, like you got to jot it down and you got to get credit for it. And whereas
mm,
like with this company, it's just like move the bus in the right direction and you know uh, make things as easy as possible and all that sort of thing. So I really can't say enough good things about where I'm at now, or this company. So,
mhm.
but like you said, maybe I'll be turning a side hobby into a job in a couple of years. Who knows? Maybe that indie record that I put out will finally take off. So,
Is that what you'd like to do?
I hope this friend of mine is listening. We recorded demos a year or two ago, and then I moved up to Fort Wayne, and like we've just been busy. And as we were talking about before, like we have a kid on the way, so there are definitely other priorities that have kind of taken the forefront of that.
Mm.
But that's a bucket list goal of mine, is to release a record and original songs. Maybe I sing on some of them. Maybe I get some help from my friends. But yeah, that'd be my thing. I hope I do before I go,
That's your dream.
and that's the title of it.
Before I go.
Yeah, the thing I hope I do before I
The
go.
thing I hope I do before I go. That's a good title.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, oh, I should write that down, but hey, we're recording, so it's jotted down.
Yeah, you can just listen to this if you need to be remembered. Write down which episode I was in so you know.
Yeah, in 50 years, we'll be like, oh shoot, I forgot to do that one thing. They released that record.
You sit down to write your record then at 50.
Yeah. Hey, it's never too old, right? It's never too old
Oh,
to get
never
in the
too old.
game.
Yeah.
But speaking of grabbing the attention and interesting things, I have to point out this bookshelf you have in the background, and just curious if you had any good recommendations for reads they have back there, or things you're currently reading.
Um, man. Well, there there are a couple of good books back there. I'm a big fan of a pastor named John Mark Comer. He used to be a pastor of a church in Portland, but now he's kind of running his own thing. And he's an author, but his books are all,
I read the Ruthless Elimination of Hurry this year. Yeah.
yes, that's a good one. Uh, there's a new one that I think just came out, but one that came out last year. It's called Live No Lies, but it's really good. Um, so I like those. And then, what I just finished reading was this book by Don Norman, called The Design of Everyday Things. Don Norman kind of like, I don't know, I don't want to say like invented, but was like a pioneer in like design. as a whole, but kind of in like, I don't know. I don't think he invented it, but like the like user experience and like way of using things, which is a big thing in like design and like designing websites and apps and all that. Anyway, his book written a long time ago is kind of just about some of his like design principles and stuff. That it kind of applies to like everything really, like, simple things to like complex things. So
Yeah,
that's what I just finished reading.
very cool, and it aligns with your job too. So
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah, I was
cool.
gonna say not everyone will want to read that book, but it is interesting.
No, yeah, I think design's interesting too. From the as someone that is the user of many applications, websites, programs, whatever, it's yeah, like it's always like, how can this be better? How can it be more a better fit for the user? And
Right.
you want people to have good experience when they're using your website and
Hmm.
whatnot. So unlike Xfinity, but that's probably a whole other story for a whole other day. But
Xfinity, like the wireless service provider.
yeah, I will say they they got me hooked up. Again, I've gone back to them and renewed my plan, but it's like they just drop you without any notice. Like if your bill doubles, and then you're like, "Hey, I just want what it was like," and then they'll say, "Oh no, yeah, well you spend 30 minutes getting to an actual person," and then they say, "Oh, we're not offering that plan anymore," and then I'll go, "Yeah, I know you are," and I'll cancel my thing if you don't, and then, "Oh wait, we found it. I got my manager's special approval." Oh, isn't that convenient? Okay, yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds about right.
I have to do it every year. It's a yearly ritual that I absolutely abhor and do not look forward to.
Gosh, that's crazy. Yeah, that's not fun.
So, yep, gotta pay the piper his due. But anyhow, Carl, thank you so much for coming on and being a guest here today. And yeah, did you have any final remarks or any final thoughts?
Um, no, I don't think so. I thank you for having me. It was fun.
Awesome. Yeah, I had a good time too. And you're welcome back anytime.
All right.
Yeah,
Let me know.
sounds good, man. Yeah. All right. Peace. Thank you.
Hmm.